There's nothing worse that you can take from human beings than their freedom, and this is Kirk's story. We're telling this story to raise awareness of the legal abuse that is happening in the American family law system every day, and we're really hoping that telling this story will make other people who've gone through the same thing come forward and tell their stories, so we can just keep raising awareness and ultimately bring the much needed change. So Kirk's divorce story began months before the divorce was ever filed. Before he ever knew that there was any intention for a divorce, tens of thousands of dollars were siphoned out of the marital bank account in cash, and this is a very typical pre-divorce event. After the divorce is filed, there's, in this case, 14 plus years of jointly built assets that are at stake, including the marital home. And in this case, Kirk had purchased the marital home as a single guy coming out of college. And this is where the first and one of the most dramatic modes of legal abuse comes into play. It's a surefire way to get the house. And attorneys will advise, and aggressors in a divorce will employ the first of many horrible abuses of the system. And it is the protection order. According to Cordell and Cordell, and you can Google this, look it up online, protection orders are unfortunately common in family law cases and are often used for strategic reasons. The misuse of a protection order when going through a divorce is one of the more prevalent and unfortunate trends in family law. A system that was designed to protect against abuse is itself being abused, and that is a very important point. Unfortunately, people resort to using orders of protection as an expedited means of obtaining custody of the kids or exclusive possession of the marital home while the divorce is pending, and that's exactly what happened to Kirk. A restraining order was filed against him with false allegations that, and this is important, allegations that were never referenced again for the duration of the case. With a temporary protection order over his head, he was told that, hey, if you'll just leave the house and never come back, the protection order will be dropped. If you give me this, all of this goes away. And as you might imagine, never having been in legal trouble before, and with a protection order suddenly on your head, Kirk left the house, and by doing so, he created a status quo that ultimately resulted in him losing the marital home. But it wasn't just the house, right? There were lots of assets left, as well as child support issues at stake. So what does Kirk care about more than anything else? He cares about his kids. So if we can create a huge focus on custody for the kids, not only does Kirk lose focus on the assets, all the assets that are left, but it distracts the judge. It diverts the judge's attention from the assets to the kids, making the assets more of an afterthought. So another system that's designed to protect against abuse, the vocational analysis, and the child and family investigator are actually used as methods of abuse because they create a fear of losing the kids, distract from the assets, instead of set a stage for what ultimately did happen to Kirk in court. And here's what happened in court. Kirk got his kids 50-50, but here's how the division of assets looked. The marital home, all the furniture, money is on this side. Kirk comes away worse off than he was coming out of college with the rental property, his motorcycle, his truck, and a little bit of money. But he should be happy, right? Because he has his kids. But for months, he's been emotionally traumatized by the threat of losing his kids. So he's coming out worse off than he was coming out of college, emotionally traumatized from the fear of losing his kids, and with a temporary restraining order on his record for the rest of his life. If it all ended right here, maybe somebody could just rebuild and keep going and say, hey, suck it up, it was hard, but you did it coming out of college, you can do it again. But unfortunately, the family law system in this country is set up in a way that promotes an ongoing and never-ending fight. And in this case, it ultimately landed Kirk in jail. Because then the 4th of July comes, right? And Kirk believes that his assigned holiday parenting time includes the weekend as opposed to just the 4th of July holiday itself. Months later, another form of legal abuse, contempt of court. is filed against him. In court, he is given the opportunity to make a deal or go to jail. The deal that is offered, $6,000 or jail time. $6,000 that Kirk doesn't owe. Give this to me, and all of this goes away. It's an unending, cruel, horrible cycle of legal abuse that just keeps going and going and going. People who are really abused hesitate to use these things. They hesitate to put somebody in contempt. They hesitate to file a protection order. They hesitate to request investigations because they're genuinely afraid of the outcomes and the retaliation of a truly abusive person. These methods designed to help the abused have been hijacked by the abusers and are wreaking havoc on families every day. Protection orders, investigations, contempt hearings, jail time, these things are for criminals, not for the everyday average woman and man who's just getting a divorce. Family law should be a safe place for women and men and children and should not be a tool used by abusers to continue to control and abuse their victims. Follow the hashtag #ChangeFamilyLaw and help us bring awareness. Thanks, everybody.